Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Katie Romagnolo, and a huge thank you for all of you that are tuning in live today here on YouTube. If you are catching us on a replay on one of our other platforms, thank you so much for your energy as well. I am so excited for what's going on with Moonlogic here. We've had over 75,000 views of the podcast just recently, and I am coming off of a wrap up from filming season 18 of Dragon's Den, where I am excited to announce that Moonlogic is being featured. So, we've got a lot going on here in the background, and I'm excited for all of the entrepreneurs who are following along on this journey and who are part of our magic school and moving through some of their own personal blocks to get to a space of true clarity within their life and business. It is not only about the money. And yes, we all deserve to have an abundant life and to receive what it is that we're also putting back out into the world. But a huge part of that comes first in getting into your heart space and truly moving out of the head. We tend to, as entrepreneurs, have a lot of things that we're thinking about. And I have a really great question that came through this week from one of our listeners in terms of being in a stuck place. When we get into this spot of what am I going to do to get out of my head? I tend to be an overthinker, and there are some blocks that are showing up. What happens when we overthink is we sometimes get into analysis paralysis. This is when there's so many thoughts going on that all of that compounds to a point in which all of a sudden now we're doing nothing. The overwhelm is a real thing. And moving through that is really one of the key ways to success. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today because if you are tuning in when this is airing, we are still sitting in what I call the first quarter moon phase. And this is about a week of time in which is a momentum phase in your life and business energetically. So I'm really encouraging entrepreneurs and anyone out there, even if you're not running your own business or have a passion project or hobby, there's still things that we want to build momentum towards in our life that are really productive during this time. So, the first quarter is all about when you're starting to really move into a space of showing more of your own light. Think of the moon as your own personal symbol that is showing you when it is that is the time to be moving forward in your life as we start to see more and more of that beautiful light that's actually being reflected from the sun. And when it is that it's time to actually adjust back and to look at the details and the feedback, there's this beautiful flow that tends to happen naturally if we follow these cycles. So, first quarter week, it's all about the momentum. And truly and honestly, I used a lot of these cues to get on the show. Dragon's Den is not an easy feat. There are thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs each season that are gunning for a spot to get in front of all of the amazing dragons. So, getting to a spot to be able to actually pitch was pretty surreal. And there was a lot of steps to do. So, I most certainly at points could have gotten into a space of overwhelm, into a space of overthinking of all the things that could happen. And I want to give you some real examples here for how I moved through that because I am human too. I am someone, if you have heard my past stories, who really struggled with social anxiety for a huge portion of my life. And there are parts of me that still connect into stories that I had of anxiety or not feeling good enough or being told that you'll never amount to anything. It's not that that information goes away. And the important thing is to remember that who you are and what you've experienced in your life, the good and the bad, is all stored within your subconscious mind. Who you are and the drivers for how you show up and your behaviors that are either creating a successful life in business or causing a stall are coming from that subconscious part of who you are. So it's really important to have this effect of understanding what is hidden down deep below. So, moon phases are an amazing way to have a reflection of what's going on down below. So, one of the ways when we start to get into this overthinking pattern, one of the ways this shows up is we're likely thinking about all of the things, number one, to do, but all of the things that will happen if we do them. What could go wrong? But what if I do it this way or that way? Or what if this doesn't work? What if I'm wasting my time? What if somebody doesn't understand? What if happens quite a bit as an entrepreneur. So, cutting through the what ifs, this can be a really good indication that you are sitting in the left side of your brain. So we have this beautiful brain that we have, and I laugh as I'm saying this because my goodness, this magnificent thing that we have can also derail our lives in these crazy ways. We can start self-sabotaging because of the things that we're thinking. And whether something has actually occurred in our life or we're thinking that it could or it's a possibility, how do you know you're right? The mind is so incredibly powerful and it can cause us to really be focused on things that are not actually true and not really good for our lives, or it can fuel us in a direction that is going to help us to take action. So, this is more than mindset. This is really determining what's going on underneath the surface behind all of your thoughts that are happening. If you follow the framework that we teach here at Moonlogic, it is an excellent way to move through overwhelm, to follow the system as a whole so that you do not get stuck in these overthinking moments. This stuff really works, guys. And I want to share this with you because my dream is that everyone gets to be able to move through life with more flow so that you can face the challenges with more ease. It's not about saying, oh, I'll follow moon phases and I'll never have an issue. I'll be able to tell my future and I can foretell everything that's going on. No, it's more about putting the control back into your hands so that you can anticipate what steps to take in your life so that you have that sense of power back. We never want to give away our power to something outside of us to say that's going to direct our lives. All of this is about directing yourself back into your own internal guidance system so that you know how to make authentic decisions for you. I knew that an authentic decision for me at the beginning of the year, for whatever reason, was that I wanted to be on TV. Part of that really has a connection to wanting to spread this information. I come from a background in mindset, in working through conquering your fear, working through anxiety, all of those things myself personally. And it's so important at this stage in my life to really give back to show how it is that you can move through these stuck states. So I didn't realize in the moment how powerful really installing that goal of being on TV was. But I did use the momentum of moon phases to be able to release and let go of how that would come about, to know that I had an intention, to also physically take action towards talking about wanting something like that. And then when having the opportunity to audition initially for Dragon's Den, to actually show up and do the thing. Because unless I showed up to do it, then there was no possibility of getting to the stage of actually being on the show. So there's a lot of thoughts that could have derailed me before that point. And here's some of the techniques that I use to stay on track, to cut out the noise so that I could focus authentically into my heart for which I knew was best for me. So, being in the left side of the brain, if you're stuck in the what ifs, if you're thinking of all the things, the analysis paralysis is going on and the action is not happening. Here's one of the things that you can do quickly in the moment. As this beautiful brain of ours has these two sides, it tends to capture information in a certain way. So, our left side is really where our thinking patterns that belong to analytics, mathematics, details, all of those beautiful things that we need for checklists and things like that, the logical part of our brain. This is where that information sits and where we operate from. But very equally importantly, the right side of our brain is where our creativity is held. It's our passion. It's where our heart connects into music and into all of the beautiful artistic things that you may be drawn to in your life. I truly believe that everybody has an artist in them and that you are the artist of your own life. And the only way to capture what's truest for you and to take action towards what it is that you want is to connect into your right side of your brain. Oftentimes, when we are too fueled in the logical side, the left side, then that's when it's kind of like an engine that's overheating. We are pushing more on that gas pedal and we're flooding out what's going on in the engine and we're getting nowhere until we stall out. The smoke is now coming out of the engine and nothing is happening. We are stuck in place. This is the time not to dig into the details more. Nobody ever sat down and stressed their way out of a problem. Many times you'll hear stories of how something really came together for someone after a problem or a challenge when they actually stopped focusing on it. The reason for this is not because of the giving up. It's actually because you're taking your attention away from it to bring yourself into a better feeling state. The right side of the brain is where we have our feelings, our where our head and our heart really connect into what we want. So, shifting gears into that energy is a profoundly magnetic thing to happen that makes the deals and the details come together for you. So, a simple thing that you can do when you're noticing that you're in overdrive, the smoke is coming out of the ears, so to say, is you're going to flip yourself into a state of doing something in the right side of your brain. Now, this can be super, super simple. You don't have to take the day off and go and do something that's a hobby of yours. If you can, always a fantastic thing to do, taking the attention off and getting yourself into a better feeling state. But here's something you can do in the moment if you're working through details and nothing is happening. You're actually going to activate this right side of your brain by singing. Now, you can do this on your own, and singing is this amazing way to connect into the fun and silly part of us, but it also connects into vibration. And today, as you link into vibration, that brings forward all of this energy from that right side of your brain that lets you connect into what you love. So, humming a simple tune, popping in some earbuds, and dancing around to your favorite music. Do something that calls you into the right side of your brain. You know those adult coloring books? I'm a big fan because it's something that we never really allow ourselves to do as adults because sometimes we're way too serious and there's too many things that are going on. But getting a coloring book or creating your own coloring book, or just if you have kids, grabbing all of their fun things and doing it for yourself, actually putting yourself into that right state of mind, and right being that pun of right side and right forward moving action as well. Now, what can also happen though is when we're really sitting in avoidance, say we're not thinking about the details, we are definitely not sitting in the left side of the brain, but nothing is going on either. Everything that you need to do is being avoided. Maybe there's a lot of things that feel like, I don't have time to pay attention to that if you're not looking into the details. And it feels like it's a little too much in la la land, I like to call this. And I am someone who definitely goes into la la land quite a bit because it's also a dreamer state. But we can't only dream, we have to take action as well towards the things that we want. This is where the whole name moon logic actually came from. The moon representing our right side of our brain, the magic, the passion, the energy, and the logic sitting in the left side of our brain where we need to take practical action. Life is not one or the other. Life is being sometimes in one or the other, and also flipping back and forth to make sure that we have that balance. So you're sitting too much on the right side of the brain, maybe, and nothing's going on. Avoidance is the cue here for how you know that that might be going on. What you can do to flip a little bit right side into that moment to get into the left and into the details and the things that you actually need to do into the action is you're going to put your brain in a state of something that the left brain does. So it's kind of like turning on a switch, right? We've got this powerful, powerful brain of ours, but it also needs cues, and we are giving it cues constantly. So give it the cues that you want. Flip it into the left side by doing some simple math. 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 3, simple math. You don't need to get into all of the complicated fractions or anything, unless maybe that's your jam. Spend a couple of minutes actually doing some math. Spend a couple of minutes looking at some charts and getting into the analytics of things. And what you can do is just a couple of minutes of this. This is again not putting yourself into overwhelm of details, but you're trying to switch on the brain. Awareness of where you're sitting is one of the first things that is key to actually getting out of the headspace and into your heart space. So, as we are traveling through this journey and we are on our first quarter moon phase still right now, this is your cue to be taking action. This is when you are growing in momentum. So, if you have something in your mind that you really want to do, but you keep talking yourself out of doing any of the things because maybe there's a lot of what ifs, there's a couple of questions that I also use to move myself into forward action on something that I want to do. So follow along as I let you know what these questions are and go back to this regularly. Write this down because it is done intentionally in a way to flip your brain not only into that left side, but also into that right side through these questions. It can help to cut through some of that energetic stagnancy that might be happening. Very, very powerful questions. Okay. Are you ready for your first question? And I want you to use your subconscious mind to answer these. These are not questions that you are going to pause this later and that you are going to think and think and think and come up with the answer for and ponder. No pondering here because pondering is in our conscious part of who we are. This part up where our head space is, the conscious part of how we decide we want others to see us. Where the golden information actually lies is in that subconscious part of you, the part that just instinctively knows things because it's pulling from all of that data that lies within your muscle memory of every experience you've ever had. So we're pulling deep into your subconscious. And the simplest way to do this is to just answer quickly. The very first thing that comes to mind. And this is not about having to have the right answer because there's literally no right answers or wrong answers. They're just answers that are flipping you into a state of action. All right, here we go. First question would be, what would happen if you did? The thing that you're thinking about doing, choose one thing in this moment, big or small, whatever it is. What is the gut level first response that pops in your mind? There is no wrong answers here. What would happen if you did? Okay, good. Next question here. You're doing great. Again, from the gut, the first thing that comes to mind. What would happen if you didn't? Ooh, this is a good one. What would happen if you didn't? Okay, so here's where we're going to get into a really cool space and we're going to start breaking through what I call the critical faculty line. And this is where we start to actually bypass all of those things that we are thinking we need to show up as. We are passing into the subconscious at this point, out of your conscious way of thinking. This is where the gold lies. So, first answer that pops into your mind. This is an amazing thing to come back to. You've done your first two questions. Are you ready for your third? What wouldn't happen if you did? What wouldn't happen if you did the thing that you know is on your heart to do? First answer that comes to mind. Okay, we're going to move into our fourth and really powerful question here that's going to help you to move into a space of taking action to cut through the noise, to connect your head and your heart, your left and your right brain all together. And that question is, what wouldn't happen if you didn't? Hmm. Did that send you into confusion? It's an interesting thing that tends to happen. What wouldn't happen if you didn't? And if at this point you're feeling like, "What? What does that even mean? I don't even know how to answer that." Perfect. You are in exactly the right space mentally, energetically to connect into the details that are going to come forward for you in the days and weeks ahead. Confusion is actually a really interesting functioning state. This is where we often precede the breakthrough. The thing that's going to break you through to take the action, to make the connections, to move into that space a lot of times it comes with confusion before. It's kind of like if you think of this as a visual, the mind is like reorienting and rewiring and figuring out what the heck was I just asked? What was that? What does that have to do with anything? What is that even a question? Is that even nonsense? Is that an answer? Whatever it is that you're thinking is absolutely perfect. So run through those questions when you're sitting in a state of not doing the thing that you need to do, or when you're feeling like, I don't know if I can, or there's too many details, or where do I move from here? And it's an excellent thing to move you forward. Too many times in life, we are stuck not doing the thing that is absolutely meant for us. I truly believe that we reject most the thing that is actually most in alignment for us. It's not because it's not a good idea, it's not meant for you, you're not good enough, it won't be a success, but people won't understand. It's not because of any of those things. We reject the things that are meant for us most because deep down underneath, we have some type of limiting belief that has latched on and became a program in our subconscious mind. For me, I had a very deep limiting belief for many years that said, Katie, you can't do anything right. That was a powerfully negative statement that I had on repeat for a very, very long time that prevented me from showing up and doing anything, even if I had a skill level for it, even if I was good at it, even if I had had positive feedback from other people. I couldn't do things that my heart really called me to do because deep down in the background, I had a little voice that had cemented in at one point which had nothing to do with what the rest of my life would be. It came from a story that really wasn't relevant to who I was going to become in life. And we all have these stories that we need to reweave in order to become the version that we are calling ourselves to be, that our higher self is supporting us to be. People around us are often seeing us for this better version of self than we even realize that we are. And it's us that holds ourselves back. So, this week, as we're sitting in the first quarter, when we start to transition into our full moon energy, which always comes after the first quarter week, you may notice that you're starting to have those thoughts that are connected into self sabotage. This is where the imposter syndrome comes up because I'm always encouraging take one small action during this week. Let this be your framework to take one small action. Forget all of the things that you think that you need to do and focus on doing one this week to move you forward. And if you do that action and there are feelings that come up around anything, anything that feels like doubt or fear or scarcity or worry or judgment, anything that is a negative feeling, state, or thought, this is your opportunity to actually find out what that limiting belief is. It's going to give you information. If you do an action step and there's a feeling behind it, it's information. And it's not information to avoid, it's information to address. Is one of the things I am so incredibly passionate about here at Moonlogic is helping people move through the information that's coming up. What do I do with that then? We release that limiting belief. So it is highly possible for you to move forward in the life and have the business that you love, that makes money too, that you feel proud of, that allows you to show up and be the person that you were meant to be. So today, take some action. See what thoughts and feelings come up around it. Notice and observe that those thoughts and feelings are not you, especially during this particular phase. This is the time period that you're getting information from your subconscious that is connected into an old storyline that may not have anything to do with you. It might be things that you've observed in your childhood. It might be from role models that have been around you. It might be from society views. It might be from things that you didn't even realize that you saw continually in your life and were subjected to that created thought patterns that then created beliefs. And you may not even know that those beliefs are there consciously because they're connected deep down below, but it's absolutely possible to surface them, work through the cycles here. And if you want to dive deeper into any of this content, go ahead and check out number one, the free moon calendar that we have in the description below, as well as Moonlogic Magic School, and continue to tune in for all of the journey in getting to Dragon's Den. I will be talking more about this. We have some incredible releases that are coming soon that you're going to be able to get your hands on as well. So thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and hit subscribe right now so that you don't miss anything further. And join me next week. I am here live every Tuesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And it's one of my favorite points in the week. So thank you so very much.